Hi everyone, today I'll be explaining Chapter 1 of Data Science, Introduction. This chapter is all about what data science is and why we need it, and some examples of how it's used in the real world. Let's start with why data mining. So, companies would collect tons of data from us every day, like what we buy, what we watch, or how we pay, but the data itself isn't really useful unless they make sense of it. That's where they use data mining. Businesses would use data mining to understand their customers and to recommend newer products. For example, Netflix would suggest movie based on what you've already watched. It's not just businesses. Scientists also use data mining. For example, scientists would collect data from satellites scanning the Earth, telescope taking pictures of galaxies, gene data from biology lab. The problem is that these data are usually too big for humans to manually check it. So this is where they use data mining. Data mining helps scientists organize this information. For example, astronomers use it to figure out if a picture is a star or a galaxy. Now let's move on to what is data mining. Data mining means finding hidden and useful patterns in large datasets. It's not just searching, it's discovering something new. So for example, if you search the word Amazon, data mining helps separate results into two groups. Amazon Rainforest versus Amazon.com. But looking up a phone number in a directory or a phone book, that is not data mining, as you already know what exactly you're looking for. Data mining task falls into two main types: predictive task and descriptive task. Predictive tasks use past data to predict the future, for example, predicting if a credit card transaction is fraud. And descriptive task is when you find patterns that describe the data, for example, grouping customers into different buying habits. Moving on to classification. Classification is when we put data into categories. For example, banks train models with past data to see if a transaction is normal or is it fraud. Then when a new transaction come in, the system can classify is it safe or is it suspicious. For clustering, it means grouping similar things together. For example, a company might cluster customer into groups, one group for buying luxury items, another group for buying cheap items, and another group who buys sports gear. This helps the company to make special offers for each individual group. Now moving on to association. Association means finding things that usually happens together. A classic example is when people who buys diapers and milk often also buys beer. Stores use this to decide whether to place a product closer or further away from another product. Regression is about predicting numbers instead of categories. For example, a company wants to know how much sale will increase if they spend more money on ads. In this case, regression would use past data to predict the number. Now for anomaly detection, an anomaly is something unusual. For example, if a credit card is usually used for small groceries, but suddenly gets charged 5 times in another country, that's an anomaly. Data mining can flag this as fraud. Even though data mining is powerful, it's not easy. Some challenges are the data is too big, the data can be messy or incomplete. Privacy issues are also very important, and sometimes the data is very complex with many factors happening at once. These are just some of the challenges data miners would face. In conclusion, data mining is all about turning raw data into useful knowledge. It's used in businesses, science, and in everyday life. Without it, we'd miss an important insight, and that's the main idea of the chapter. Thank you for listening and paying attention.